And we're live. Welcome Ryan Pyle to the show, episode 3 of Wild Journeys podcast. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, good. So I hear you're stuck in Istanbul at the minute.
I am. I was filming my Extreme Treks television series for BBC Earth in Ethiopia in mid-March.
Yeah.
When the world closed. So it was pretty interesting. Like, we thought to ourselves, coronavirus is happening. The best way to self-isolate is to just go up into the mountains.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we went to Ethiopia. We drove. We were up in the mountains. We were all by ourselves. It was beautiful. We were filming, making a great episode, but we were offline for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then we got up to the top of this 13,000 foot pass, this 4,000 meter pass. And our guide was like, "Okay, guys, have some water. Let's check the phones because we have a signal here." And we're like, "Great, we have a signal." And then, that's when we popped open the phones, and it was just like message after message. Like, the USA's closed its borders, Europe's closed its borders. I live in Dubai. The United Arab Emirates has closed its borders. And then we're like, "Holy, this is serious. Where can we go?" So we walked like 6 hours back to the nearest road, and because we had a signal, we could call a driver to pick us up. And we just went straight to Addis Ababa, not even knowing. We went straight to the airport, not even knowing where we were going to fly to.
Yeah.
Just because our options were just shrinking. And that was 3 months ago. And I've been in Istanbul ever since. So March 21st.
Jeez, and you're still there. And how's it been?
It's been great, actually. Turkey and Istanbul specifically haven't closed or shut down the way other countries have. So, Monday to Friday, you can always go out and walk around, and the grocery stores and pharmacies are open. Everything else has been closed.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was still a little bit of freedom, and going out and being able to walk and stuff was really, really nice. And now everything is back open again, and I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever, but it is happening.
Yeah.
And it's the weather here is beautiful in the spring and summer, so I feel quite lucky to have gotten kind of out of Ethiopia and out of the northern mountains and stuff like that, where healthcare might have been a little bit difficult if I had contracted any illnesses. So I didn't want to go back to Canada, so that was my other option. It was like Istanbul or Canada. So
yeah, you might as well see something new if you're going to be stuck somewhere for a few months. And how have you passed your time? Have you worked on anything, any projects, or just took the time to chill?
I've done this now in 3 stages. So the first stage was uncertainty, and I didn't do anything. I was just drinking alcohol and watching Netflix. Like, I was just like, 3 p.m, why not? I have no idea what's going on. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of kind of fear about, will the world open up again? And that lasted for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then I started doing my own Instagram live series called the COVID Calls.
Yes.
So I was like, well, all I know how to do is make television shows, and I can't travel. So I'm going to make my own television show. So I just started interviewing people, kind of like a web podcast or a video podcast. But I was using Instagram Live because I really loved how interactive it was, and people could ask questions as we go. And then I would download that and put it onto YouTube. So I've done 76 of those now over the last kind of 7-8 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's been keeping me busy. I try to do 1 or 2 a day.
Yeah.
And I've been reaching out not only to people I know, but also people I don't know. So it's been incredibly educational, and it's kind of my way of traveling without being able to travel. So that's really how I've been keeping myself busy. And then the third stage, which I feel like I'm in now, is getting ready to travel again. And Europe is opening up quite quickly. Mainland Europe, the European Union. Yeah. And I will go from Turkey to the EU and hopefully start filming again in August.
Okay. And what's the next project?
So I'm going to continue filming Extreme Treks, and we have a shoot in Switzerland. So we've been told by the Swiss government that we can come in and film in August, and it should be open to all tourists, or at least EU tourists in August. So that's the plan at the moment. So we'll see.
Nice.
Lots of ifs.
Quite the couple of months then. And I guess Dubai's opening up, so you could potentially go home as well at some point.
I could, but I don't have a home. So I don't have a physical home. I don't have a place where all my things are. I have a really nice office in Dubai
Yeah,
where like the camera equipment and the hard drives and all that kind of stuff are. And then I live in I live in a residential hotel in Dubai with a kitchen and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
And then when I'm not there, I don't pay for it. So I've been here in Istanbul the first 6 weeks. I was in a hotel because there was so much uncertainty. And then once I knew this was going to be it for a while, I rented an apartment. So I
yeah,
just found a apartment rental, and I've been living here now for 2 months. So it's good I didn't have anything fully to go back to in Dubai, or else I probably would have been freaking out. So
yeah,
I'm actually going to stay here in Istanbul for another couple of weeks.
yeah,
And there's no work in Dubai. I just kind of live in Dubai because it's a hub.
yeah, yeah,
I don't have any clients or anyone to meet there. It's just a
yeah.
nice place to live in the middle of everything.
Yeah, for sure. No, I used to live in Abu
Yeah.
Dhabi, so I know full well
Okay.
how connected the rest of the world is when you live in that part. You're, just a few hours over to India or Asia, or not too far away from Europe
So
as
good.
well. It's just a perfect place if you like to travel. But
Absolutely.
I guess the reason I wanted to get you on this podcast initially was that you've had a really unique journey in getting to where you are today, from not necessarily having the biggest travel background, and then just from what I've read, just hopping on a flight to China at one point, and things sort of spiraling into what they are today. So I kind of just wanted to jump back into, um, obviously it'd be good for people who haven't read your story to introduce what you were up to in China initially, and kind of what the motivation was for going there.
Yeah. So if we want to go way back, I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and had a lovely, existence there. And I went to the University of Toronto, and I played basketball. Actually, I played basketball my whole life, from like the age of 7 to the age of 22.
Yeah,
Loved it, and I played at the university level, which was quite high.
yeah,
And but one of the things I tell people is, like, when you play like high level sports, you don't grow up as a very well rounded person. You are like, you don't have a lot of other interests because you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of energy. You just kind of train and you compete, and then that's it. One thing happened to me in my second year of university. I ended up taking a course kind of by accident about the introduction to modern China,
okay,
and that got me thinking for the first time about China. And I
yeah,
I literally took this course only because it fit my schedule. Like,
yeah,
no real interest in it before, and then it just started blowing my mind away. And then when I graduated university, I wasn't good enough to play professional basketball, so I kind of gave up my sporting career all at once. And then I decided, well, if I'm gonna live in Toronto, Canada, and get a job and settle down, I should go check out China, because I liked it so much, and I read a whole bunch of books, and I took actually that first course, and then I took two more after that. So I wanted to go check it out. So I went backpacking all around China by myself, 3 months, 90 days. I didn't speak any Chinese. I didn't know anyone in China. I went in through Hong Kong, went to Shenzhen, Guangzhou, up to Wuhan, Nanjing, Shanghai, up along the coast, up to Beijing, saw the Great Wall. And then from Beijing, I went all the way to the border of China and Pakistan on the Karakum
yeah,
Highway, the highest border crossing in the world. And then from there, I went down into Tibet, and I trekked through some Tibetan villages. I got to Mount Everest Base Camp. This was in 2001.
yeah,
And then I came back to Lhasa, and then I went out to Chengdu. I went down through southwest China, and I did all that by myself. And that was kind of like my first trip,
yeah,
and I loved it. Like, I just loved not speaking the language. I loved how difficult everything was. I loved how humble I was becoming,
yeah,
because you're not very humble as like an elite athlete. You end up kind of like
yeah,
in kind of this like me zone, and it was magical. Just loved it. And then I decided that somehow, and I was like writing and interviewing people and taking pictures, even though I didn't have anyone to publish my stuff.
yeah. What was it that drove you to do that?
I just thought, like, I just really believed that I was seeing stuff that people need to know about.
Yeah,
And beyond, like, 2001, this is before Facebook and Instagram and everything like that. Like, there was basically like National Geographic magazine. That was it.
yeah,
And I was seeing stuff that I hadn't seen in National Geographic magazine, and I just thought it was so cool. And I wanted to share this with more people. And then that trip basically got me focused on wanting to like tell stories for the rest of my life, travel and tell stories. And then I went home after that 3 month trip, and then I moved back right away. I was home for like a month,
yeah,
and then I moved to Shanghai, China. And then I taught English in Shanghai for about 3 or 4 months just to settle myself,
Yep.
because it was quite easy back then to get an English job. And then I started working for that's Shanghai, that's Beijing City Weekend. So these were some local Chinese English language
Yeah.
magazines. And then from there, I got in with the South China Morning Post in Hong Kong, the Straits Times in Singapore. So I was basically living in Shanghai, covering China only. I
Yeah.
never left China
Yeah.
for like, and then for regional magazines, and then eventually New York Times, Forbes, Fortune, that whole thing. And I was doing that. I won some awards, but again, it was just all China all the time, and I did that for almost 10 years,
Yeah.
and I loved it. Was making a great living. I was getting to meet new people every day, traveling all around China. I knew China. I worked in every province. It was amazing. And then all of a sudden in 2008, in 2008, we had the build up to the Beijing Olympics,
Yeah.
which was in August, and then in September, Lehman Brothers crashed, and then we had the global financial crisis. And the global financial crisis did a lot of terrible things, but one of the things it also did was destroy the publishing industry. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like Time, Newsweek, Forbes, Fortune, Der Spiegel, all the big, well-paying publications to work for as a freelance writer and photographer just died
Yeah.
overnight. And then that was when I decided that if I wanted to keep my dream alive of telling stories and traveling and meeting people, that I needed to move into television.
Yeah.
So, so then I decided, like, hey, I'm gonna make my first TV show about China because this is what I know best. And I loved riding motorcycles, so I was like, I'm gonna ride a motorcycle all the way around China and show people what's not being shown in the mainstream media. Because I kind of got fed up with being in the mainstream media,
Yeah.
because I felt like the stories were becoming very repetitive, and the tone that people were taking with China was becoming very repetitive. And of course, I was working, but I was taking vacations all the time, going off on motorcycles, trekking in the mountains. A lot of the stuff I do now for TV,
Yeah.
I was doing as a vacation when I was doing my photography and writing career. And and then I was like, well, why isn't this a show? Why aren't people seeing what I'm seeing on my
Yeah.
vacations? And then I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and what were you saying? I mean, from a mainstream media perspective, obviously the slant that's put on China is very negative and always sort of shown at a government level. The politics and
Yeah,
certain things that are going on within the country that are very very highly publicized. But there's obviously a ton of people there that are living, I would guess, quite
yeah.
interesting lives. What are the main differences you see with the China that you spend so much time in between reality and the
I mean,
mainstream media?
people everywhere are awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I will never, like, I get this on social media all the time. It's like, oh, I would never film in China. I would never go to China. And I'm like, you have to be able to disassociate what the government does with who the people are.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, like, go to China, meet amazing Chinese people, and have the experience of a lifetime. Doesn't mean you have to support the Chinese government. Like, the little guy who sells noodles at the noodle shop in Xi'an is going to welcome you in with a warm smile and cook you his best bowl of, spicy Xi'an noodles, and you're going to love it. And maybe you'll meet his wife and his kid, and that's all just while sitting down having a beer, drinking some noodles. It's beautiful. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the Communist Party or whatever else they're doing in the world. Same with Iran. Someone was shitting on me the other day for filming in Myanmar because of the Rohingya Muslim kind
Yeah.
of situation that's going on there. But like, I was way up in another part of the country, staying in local villages with some of the most beautiful people. And these are like the stories I really like trying to flesh out. And it's just magical. And I just felt like China had so much to offer tourists who were looking for something different and looking for something beyond what was being shown in the news, like the physical landscapes, the minority people, the different cultures that exist there. It's one of the most diverse countries really in the world, and I wanted to show that. So I wanted to ride a motorcycle the whole way around the country, and we did that. It was like 18,000 kilometers, 65 days, and then that was what my first TV show, which was six episodes for Travel Channel.
Yeah, so that's the first
Yeah,
break into TV. I wanted to jump back there. It's an interesting point that you made about people's responses to traveling in countries that maybe don't have the best reputation. I mean, I had the same with Myanmar. I had a trip planned
yeah,
a year and a half ago, roughly, and I ended up not going due to other reasons. But other people's responses were, "What? Why? Like, why would you go there with that stuff going on?" But you're right in the sense that it's not really the government that suffers if you boycott a place like Myanmar. It's the people that get their income from tourists passing through, and it's
Yeah.
the economy, and it's, I guess, a detriment to the rest of the world that don't get to experience the really cool things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you have to make a decision. But someone was shitting on me the other day actually for praising Turkey. Like, I have been a virus refugee in Turkey,
Yeah,
and the Turkish government allowed me to come in here and have allowed me to overstay my visa because global travel is shut down.
yeah,
And every single Turkish person I meet in Istanbul, I tell my story to, and they buy me a coffee. They're so sweet, and the people I've met here have been wonderful and
yeah,
very sympathetic to, you know, getting stuck away from home in such a crazy situation. And someone was saying, "Oh, I'll never forgive the Turkish people for what they did in X other country or what they've been doing with these people." And I'm like, I'm not hanging out with the people in the military praising them for, their adventures abroad or, something that happened 80 years ago. Like, I'm talking about today.
yeah,
I'm talking about the shitty situation that we're all dealing with today and how people need to come together and help each other out, and people have. And
yeah,
and that's my point. And it's amazing. You know, it's social media is great. It gives everyone a box to stand on.
yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is good, but it definitely stresses the importance of personal experience over, reading what you see in the media and going and finding out what the Irans and Pakistans and Chinas of the world are like. Within reason, of
absolutely.
course, stay safe if you are going to places like that, and travel
Yeah,
wisely. But the importance of actually discovering for yourself is a great thing. But talk to me about then that first TV show. How did you go about getting that
terrible,
commissioned?
terrible,
Yeah,
terrible. Didn't get a commission. Didn't get a commission. So I went to every major broadcaster, and they all said no. I had no television experience. I had no producing experience. I had no directing experience. I had no
yeah,
hosting experience. But one of the things that happened to me while I was a photographer for like the New York Times and stuff like that is I would go back to North America and Europe, and I would give all these lectures um, at universities about my work in China.
yeah,
And I loved speaking. I loved public speaking, and I was good at it. And I could hold a room for an hour talking about how I felt about these pictures and how I felt about these situations that I was
yeah,
in. And I was like, if I can hold a room for an hour as a lecturer, I can talk to a camera. Like, that's a transferable skill,
yeah.
and I genuinely love what I was doing. So like, that has to come through somehow. So I totally believed I could do it. The question was, how do you produce a TV show? I didn't know, and so I enlisted my brother because he hadn't really been to China, and I was the expert. So we put this idea together, and then we didn't have any broadcast support and we didn't have any sponsorship, but we put together a little bit of money, and we thought, let's try to do this, and we went out and we did it,
Yeah,
and we got it out into the world, and that led us to do another one in India, and then that was when my brother retired from television. Um, he kind of wanted to have a normal life, whereas for me, it was definitely my new career and
yeah,
something that I loved because I
yeah,
didn't have anything to go back to. Like, going back to photography, the way I knew it was dead. And Instagrammers make more money now than National Geographic photographers. So,
yeah,
what's the career progression? Like, for
yeah,
me, in the early 2000s, I always wanted to like work for National Geographic magazine.
yeah,
And now, all those people that I know that were working as photographers back in the day, they're all teaching.
yeah, yeah.
And
No,
it's like they've all dripped into education. They're not even like traveling the world anymore because no one can pay for it. I was like, I need to do something where I can keep moving, or I'm going to lose my mind.
yeah, it's interesting how photographers have had to adapt since back then. I don't know if you saw me speaking to Ryan Moss earlier in the week, who's a Hawaiian-based surf photographer, and he said exactly the same thing. Aside
Yeah,
from the CRISPR cards of the world, the top level photographers that have made a huge name for themselves, the industry is just saturated because of well, one, the great thing is that cameras are so accessible these days. A good iPhone can take a really good picture,
right.
and then obviously everyone has a platform on Instagram, and everyone wants to be this influencer, which is also great if you want to do it, but it just means there isn't really an industry there for the people that want to make a proper career out of especially documentary photography.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was rubbish at corporate photography and I was
Yeah,
a terrible portrait photographer and I hated working in a studio. So,
yeah,
like I wasn't able to transition into that, although those people still make money,
yeah,
um, like a livable wage. I wouldn't say they make money, but
yeah,
unless you can become a celebrity photographer where you're more famous than your pictures,
yeah,
um, then you got to get out and retool and learn another skill. So I really put my heart and soul into making television, making adventure travel content, and I was kind of lucky to come out the other side of it because a lot of people don't.
yeah. How much easier has it got for you since that show one, two, three to sort of be able to make shows your concepts commissioned?
Yeah, so I never get commissioned.
Okay.
I've never had a commissioned. I worked on one commissioned show where I was just the host
Yeah,
for Discovery Channel once. Um, but I what I do is I kind of create my show idea, um, and then I fundraise for it either privately or working with like tourism bureaus or corporate
yeah,
partners. And then I do my show by myself
yeah.
and then I sell it afterwards. And
Okay.
then so that it looks and feels exactly the way I want it. And
Yeah,
that is hugely risky,
yeah,
but it allows me to have some control over what I look like, or else on camera, and it has like a message exactly what I want to show people because, or else I'm just going to be doing reality television and competition shows,
yeah,
and that's not what I want. That's not why I got into this business either. Like I wanted to travel and see the world, but do it in a way that was objective and humble,
yeah,
and bring the wow back to
yeah,
to travel television instead of just making it about six shitty people that don't like each other that are just snipping at each other the whole time
yeah,
for for viewership pleasure.
yeah,
That's not that's not in my mind. That's not travel entertainment. So I had a real idea of what I wanted to do, and it's very much in the mold of what National Geographic was 20 years ago,
yeah,
which influenced me and got me to travel. Not
yeah,
what National Geographic is today.
yeah,
Everyone's just fixing cars and screaming at each other, but
yeah,
what National Geographic was 20 years ago.
yeah. And you've kind of touched on it there, but you're a good person to speak to for anyone that's looking to get into this industry because you've been there since 2001 or whenever you started making films and you've seen the industry change. How different is it?
2010,
2010 was your first
2010,
show.
yeah, TV show, yeah, but it didn't broadcast till 2013 because it took so long to figure out how to edit it and how to sell it, and making something before you sell it and not having someone lined up to take it
Yeah,
is scary.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And how have you found
Sorry, I
the?
interrupted you.
You're okay. How have you found the industry has changed then since 2010, 2013? Once the sort of Netflix and the Amazon Primes and that sort of television media has started to shift a little bit.
Yeah, I think the linear broadcasters or the traditional broadcasters have been slow to react, and because of that, they've lost a lot of market share and a lot of revenue from advertising,
Yeah,
and a lot of it shifted online. So that's been a big issue. Like an hour of TV doesn't get what it used to. So it's less, but because I've been doing it for quite a while, and I'm able to maybe make up for it by getting my show into some other territories, or maybe able to get a different corporate partner. I actually make like in pre-COVID times, I'm very active on the speaking circuit, so I actually make the majority of my income from speaking.
yeah,
Um, so I use my television show as a platform to share the values and beliefs that I believe all travelers should take to heart. And then
yeah,
I use that to give talks at, boarding schools, universities, Fortune 500 companies, whoever wants to sit down and, get inside my brain for an hour. So I really love that. And
yeah.
I think I had like 15 speaking engagements canceled in the last 4 months because
Wow.
of all this. So I've missed that because I do love getting up in front of 100 or 100 people or 500 people and
Yeah,
riffing for an hour.
yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Something I did also want to talk to you about was India. You mentioned coming to India for your second show, and it's um, I think my favorite country I've ever been to. Just because it is so vastly different from anywhere else I've been, and it's another country that has a reputation for tourists of just not being that inviting a place to go to for a lot of people. What were your experiences there?
Well, so I filmed Tough Rides India
Yeah,
in India in 2012, and that was a 54-day, 14,000 kilometer, 10,000-mile motorcycle trip all around India.
yeah,
We went all up through the north, down the coast, Goa, all the way down to the south, Madurai, Bangalore, out to Chennai, up to up to Calcutta. We did the
yeah,
whole thing, and that was amazing, and I loved it. It was hard,
yeah,
but so kind of spiritual and wonderful, and the history and the people are just amazing. But I think the most important thing about being a traveler is you need to know yourself. Like,
yeah,
don't go to India and expect Paris.
yeah,
Don't don't go to Delhi and expect it to be as organized, and as orderly as Munich.
yeah,
It's just not going to happen. So you go to India expecting India, and then it ends up being fine. And
yeah,
as long as you're safe um, and making good choices, and staying in decent places and not being stuck out in the middle of nowhere, then you'll probably have a really positive experience. But I'll tell you, going to India and seeing the history and all the beauty that the country has to offer is just amazing. Like, one of the most enlightening experiences you can have as a human being. Going to India and spending 54 days traveling by road
yeah,
is painstaking and terrible,
yeah,
because the roads in India are just awful,
yeah,
and that's well documented. But to get up every morning at 7 a.m. and have breakfast, and then spend 10, 12 hours on an Indian highway is mentally mind crushing, and that
yeah,
was one of the hardest things I think I've ever done.
yeah. I mean, I spent maybe 2 hours on a motorbike in Rishikesh, I think, just outside, in small country sort of roads away from the highway, and I think I nearly died 3 or 4 times on that one trip alone. So the
In
whole
two
trip would have been,
hours.
yeah, I know, the whole trip would have been a draining experience. But did you go to anywhere in the sort of Seven Sisters states or up towards the Indian Himalayas?
Oh yeah, we went all the way up into Manali and went paragliding. We went west of Manali, over the Rotang Pass, and then over the Sach Pass down to Amritsar Golden Temple.
Yeah,
Visited the Wagah border crossing with Pakistan. Went
yeah,
all down through Rajasthan. Went to the Taj Mahal. On the way out, we were in Calcutta. Went up to Darjeeling and visited tea plantations, and then we came back through Varanasi, Bodhi Gaya. Varanasi is one of the most holy places in the world for Hindus. And then we went to Bodhi Gaya, which is one of the most holy places in the world for Buddhists.
yeah,
And then we finish off with the Taj Mahal, and then back to Delhi. Like, we started and finished in Delhi,
yeah,
and just to visit all these places and see these people who are so dedicated to a way of life. And I'm pretty much not a very religious person, but
yeah.
I do enjoy kind of sharing in people's spirituality and belief, and it's quite humbling to learn, about the history, and about kind of how dedicated people are to their religion, as long as their religion doesn't infringe on other people's rights
Yeah,
to practice their religion. So that's always like a sticking point.
yeah,
But India is amazing the way it kind of is able to keep everyone, multi-ethnic, multi-faith, to keep everyone kind of together in some way, shape, or form. I've always been impressed by that.
yeah. I found it interesting in Varanasi, obviously the holiest city for Hindus, and one of the oldest cities in the world. But even still, at
Yeah,
that, just off the water, there's a large district of Muslims that seem to live and practice their religion fairly freely. So that's true. That there is obviously friction there, and quite well documented. But by and large, for a country of 1 billion people, it's kept quite well under wraps. And Varanasi, for anyone that hasn't been or hasn't heard too much about it, I would really recommend as not a holiday, but certainly an
yeah,
experience. It's
yeah. I mean, to get up at sunrise and get out on a boat and watch the sun come up over the Ganges while people are bathing and cremating their dead. That is powerful.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So one piece of advice, Ryan, for people that want to get into the travel and television industry, today, what are your main thoughts, or main piece of advice for people that want to pursue that career?
I think Oh man, it's a tough one. Like I think the number one thing you have to do is like no one's going to help you.
Yeah,
No one's going to give you any money. So if you haven't created anything and you want to create something, the first thing you need to do is create something that you can show someone.
yeah,
So it can be an Instagram TV video, it can be a YouTube video, it can be a video of you and your family, it can be a video of you and your friends. You can do something fiction, you can do something nonfiction, you can do it low budget, you can do it high budget. It doesn't matter. But you have to make one thing on your own that you can start to show people to build some trust that when someone gives you a certain amount of money, you're going to give them back a television show.
yeah,
And it's literally that easy. And the amount of people I've seen who have great ideas and who have passion and who have skill, they're just unwilling to take the first step or the first bit of risk to make something for themselves.
yeah,
Um, and it might not be, you might have to make more than one thing. You might
yeah,
have to make five or six of them. I think if you're a content creator, you're a content creator. If you're a storyteller, you're a storyteller. If you have to make 10 videos by yourself before you can get your first job, or you have to make 30 of them, you're just going to do it because that's what you love to do. And I don't think that you can be pushed into being a storyteller or being a content creator. You can't
yeah,
push anyone into that career. Like you either love it or you don't. Um, and I think that that's kind of my advice. And you know, you can make stuff for YouTube, you can make stuff for Instagram, but for me, I love long form content because
yeah,
traveling and storytelling and meeting people are complex,
yeah.
and a soundbite doesn't always do it. So I really like the opportunity to make 26-minute episodes or 46-minute episodes and really let people kind of become become connected to a place. Like I see a lot of really amazing stuff on YouTube, for example, that's like 2-3 minutes long, but they're just like music videos, like
Yeah,
it's beautiful imagery and amazing drone flying but it's like a music video of a place. And
yeah,
but
yeah,
those get millions of views. Like I'm jealous. Like those and they're wonderfully put together, but there's no story
yeah,
being conveyed. I didn't learn about anyone or anything
yeah,
or any way of life. I saw a guy skydiving, and then he was like kayaking down a crazy river, and then there was a drone up above, and then there was a wild animal.
yeah,
Like I'm not getting any context, and maybe I'm old school. Like I actually want to keep learning about the world,
yeah.
not just see like flashy pictures. And that's kind of really how I focus um, my content in on trying to really tell those stories.
Yeah, that's certainly one thing that's changed with the media today, especially with social media. People's attention spans for anything really. People don't really read anymore for a start. Everything's moving towards video content, but even with video content, from working in marketing for the last couple of years, knowing that you need to keep any video that you create, whether it's interesting, boring, promotional or documentary, you need to keep it below 3 minutes probably to make sure people even are interested in watching it. And ideally, if it has important information in it that you think people might need, keep it below a minute, because
Yeah,
that's what you have for people's attention spans these days. So for sure, media has changed massively. And part of my conversation with Ryan Moss the other day was, and it probably links back to the advice that you gave people that want to create stuff and want to sort of get their shows on TV. And a lot of people think that they need to be in, a China or a Myanmar or Iran to make something interesting. But especially during lockdown when everyone's stuck in the same place, there are always interesting stories right on your doorstep as well. And the barrier to entry, as we spoke about earlier, for this kind of media is so low these days. You can still exactly you can still
everyone's got a phone.
everyone's got a phone. Everyone has something that films in HD. If you want to upgrade your audio, you buy a lav mic off Amazon for $10-15, and you've got enough of a setup to get started and go out into, whether you're in Istanbul at the minute or I'm in Belfast or wherever you are. There's so much opportunity to just start telling a story somewhere.
Yeah, and if you're not willing to take that first step, no one is going to take a chance on you. So you either do it yourself, or you can spend 5 years bitching and complaining that no one ever hired you. I
Yeah,
mean, that's really it. And you know, young filmmakers, they have a leg up if they go to university for filmmaking because they're encouraged to do student films.
Yeah.
And student films are low budget films, and people are encouraged to collaborate with others. And I just feel like that's a really nice environment to learn how to make stuff in.
Yeah.
But even if you don't go to film school, like if you have an idea, do it and then and follow through it. And you can do lots of low budget travel shows or adventure shows. You can do it yourself. Even the tools are there. If you're passionate, look, I mean, the industry is hard by design.
Yeah.
Like being in entertainment, being someone who gets paid to travel is like a dream.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to break in. So accept the hardness, accept the difficulty of making that transition, and be willing to try harder and make something more interesting than others. And it
Yeah.
is competitive.
Yeah.
Like everyone sits on the couch and wants to do something. But the people who get off the couch and do make it happen are the ones
Yeah.
that'll hopefully be successful.
Yeah. And where do you see the next, maybe this is a difficult question, but where do you see the next 5 to 10 years of filmmaking going in terms of shifting media and shifting trends? Do you see things becoming shorter form and more bite size, or do you still see that there's going to be value in a career in that sort of long form documentary making?
I still think there's huge value in long form content, and
Yeah.
and I believe that as long as it's done well, people will sit and watch. And
Yeah.
you know, people binge watch Game of Thrones and Westworld and all these big HBO series because they put a lot of money into it, and it
Yeah.
looks great. And then you've got people who have these super popular podcasts, and they put them on YouTube, and they're 2 3 hours long,
Yeah.
and people are watching them.
Yeah.
So if you have a built-in audience, they'll follow you for
Yeah.
5 minutes or 30 minutes, and if you're making stuff that's high enough quality, they'll also sit and watch. Um, and high quality doesn't necessarily always mean expensive.
Yeah.
Uh, my travel shows are made on a shoestring
Yeah.
because we keep, it's just a few of us. Like we have a very, very small crew. So, and we're camping. Like we're walking and camping every day.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get any cheaper than that.
No.
Like some airfare, and everyone has to get paid,
Yeah.
a day rate and things like that. But at the end of the day, like we're spending 10, 12 days walking across northern Mongolia. Like how
Yeah.
expensive is that? Not like staying in a expensive hotel in the city and
Yeah.
making like a food and beverage exploration show or something like that. So it's we try to do it as cheaply as possible, and we try to bring people really exotic locations.
Yeah.
That's where we try to be different from most, I think.
Yeah. Well, what's your crew like then? What's the makeup? Say for example, your recent show in Ethiopia.
Oh, so I it's me and two cameramen.
Yeah.
So I produce and direct the show, and I also host it. And
Yeah.
then I have two amazing cameramen. My director of photography is Chad Ingram, and I have a second cameraman, Jesse Rosenberg. Chad's been with me for 10 years. He shot my first motorcycle show all around China. He's worked on everything. He's amazing. And then Jesse is an NYU grad, and I picked him up a few years ago right out of school. And I think like 4 years ago, and he's already traveled to like 30 countries around the world with me filming. So
Yeah.
he's got to see a lot. And then I have a post production team that does the editing, music composition, maps and graphics,
Yeah.
and then I kind of oversee the whole thing. And it's amazing. Like last year, 2019 or 2019, we filmed 10 expeditions in 10 countries in 10 months for Discovery Channel. So, and that's now coming out in Asia. So we filmed in the Philippines, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mongolia, Taiwan, Kyrgyzstan, Thailand, India, and Hong Kong.
Wow.
And we wrapped up right in early December before kind of the world started to fall apart.
Yeah.
And I've been joking. I was doing a whole bunch of PR for the show the last few weeks, and I was joking that it's the last travel show ever made. It's just because it's just going to be a little hard to jump on a plane and just fly around at
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Like that was a huge amount of freedom we had to make that show.
Yeah. For sure. That's amazing. And what's the public speaking world looking like for the next year or so? Just dead?
I think it's going to be a long time before 500 people all sit in a room together. I
Yeah.
think, I think these big conferences and, I was going to Bali like 4 or 5 times a year to do Asia Pacific general managers
Yeah.
workshop, you know, and I would come in at the end and talk about thinking outside the box and working outside your comfort zone, and
Yeah.
you know how I use that in my television show and my life, and kind of like pump people up and get them excited about trying new things, and being scared, you know, and that's, you know, the birthplace of creativity is to be terrified about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's gone, man. That's gone for a long time, I think. Probably, yeah, who knows? But so I'll have to buckle down a little bit and work on the television content. But hopefully, hopefully it'll come back someday. I've had a few like online
Yeah. I was gonna
requests
say.
to do like, but there's no money in that.
Yeah.
Uh, like you can't make a living from it, and you know, traveling all around the world all the time is expensive. So
Yeah.
you know, if people want you to live that lifestyle and they want that to be part of your persona, and they want you to make content from all these beautiful places, that, you know, you have to be paid.
Yeah.
Um, the money doesn't. There's no trust fund like that. Money doesn't come from, just doesn't rain down on me. So you know, the speaking stuff is really important, and so we'll have to see if that, maybe 2021 will be a little better. I think last year I did 46 speaking engagements or something like that. So it's you know, something I miss for sure.
Yeah, going from 46 to zero in a matter of months is a bit of a blow, isn't it? For sure.
Yeah,
But it is good that you're still keeping up that engagement on social media as much as it maybe doesn't pay. To be doing two or
keeping the
three,
brain sane. Yeah,
yeah, speaking engagements, so to speak, every day, and just speaking to interesting people is definitely a valuable thing, just to even keep sharp and keep curious. I mean, for me, that's the reason for doing this podcast, is that I was feeling like I was going slightly crazy, stuck inside, and I just wanted to start speaking to people who tend to do cool things and make a way of making a living out of them. So there's
yeah, it's
definitely
amazing.
there's definitely something
Yeah,
to be said for staying curious and staying active and staying social in times like this, for sure.
and it's fun. I mean, like interviewing someone and being interviewed by someone and like connecting with someone in this kind of way,
Yeah,
it releases endorphins. Like it is a happy experience, and I was just craving that because you know, this is the thing. Like I was living a pretty fast paced global existence, and it was very exciting and very fun and very free. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden, you know, my world went down to this, like a hotel room in Istanbul,
yeah,
and it was devastating for the first like month,
yeah,
until I started really getting into those calls and really, you know, taking my mind out of that. And I was like, and it's just like you, I'm booking my own guests, I'm getting the time zones right, I'm,
yeah,
you know, figuring out the technology, and then I'm, you know, syndicating it and trying to market it and trying to get people excited about it and trying to find out who my next guest is going to be. And it becomes, you know, it becomes your whole world. And I
yeah,
just needed that distraction. It's been lovely.
yeah, for sure. So, what is it exactly then you're doing in Switzerland come August? What's
So
the trek? What's the mountain?
it'll be an episode of my Extreme Trek series, which is on BBC Earth and Amazon Prime. And we're walking across Switzerland. So we're going to be walking across from east along the border with Austria
Yeah.
to Montreux on Lake Geneva. And it's a trail called the Via Alpina.
Okay.
And it's about 350 kilometers, and it's going to take about 28 days to do this trek with filming. So that's kind of one episode I identified as something I would love to do, and it'll be a great way to get back into work, great way to get back into good shape, and a great way to social distance and just stay away from everyone else. Is just kind of being outside and walking all the time, which I think will be lovely.
Yeah, 100%. And what's your trekking background then? Obviously, growing up in Canada, you have some of the best mountains and terrain in the world. But
Didn't
when
do
when
anything
did
in
that
Canada.
start for you?
Um, I think it was in China.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I grew up in Canada, but my whole life in Canada was consumed by basketball.
yeah,
Um, I didn't, I mean, I maybe went skiing every now and then, but like it was just basketball, basketball, basketball. And it wasn't until I got to China where I felt like, wow, I have all these other interests.
yeah,
And then I remember being in the Himalayas in Tibet. And I'm like, holy cow, this is where I want to be all the time. And the
yeah,
people were so sweet, and the landscape was just so out of this world. And that was in 2001. I did that trip. And then basically once I moved back to Shanghai, I was just going back out into the mountainous regions of China every chance
Yeah.
I got to, and it's great. I mean, you can roll up in a village in China in the middle of nowhere, and without any without any reservation or anything, and you can find a couple guys who have a couple donkeys, and they'll take you out for 4, 5, 6 days, go over some high passes, do a big loop, camp 5, 6 nights. One guy will bring his wife to do the cooking. He'll bring his brother to take care of the donkeys, and then you can go out and just have this amazing, remote, beautiful experience. And that was
Yeah.
actually my first trekking series. I did Extreme Trek Season 1 was all about the sacred mountains of China, where I did pilgrimages around sacred holy mountains in Tibet with the local pilgrims. And that was the birth of the Extreme Trek show, because I did 4 episodes, one mountain, one episode. And then I was like, holy cow, this like works as a concept. And then season 2, we went global. We went to Tanzania, Morocco, Peru, Chile, or not Chile, Nepal, Italy, Oman. And
Yeah.
then season 3, we went to Russia, Iceland, Laos, Papua New Guinea, Bolivia, Argentina, Jordan, and Uganda. So
Jeez.
we took this idea of like exploring the world on foot and learning about culture and way of life, and we took it kind
Yeah.
of globally. And then now I'm filming season 4.
Yeah. What did you do in Uganda?
Gorilla trekking in the Bawindi National Forest. So
Oh,
we
nice.
we started in the south, um, on the border with Rwanda and Congo,
Yeah.
and we trekked up through all the villages, all the way up to the Bawindi National Park on foot, about
Yeah.
100 kilometers, a little bit more, and then when we got to the Bawindi National Park, we joined a ranger, and they took us in to do the gorilla tracking, where we found a family of gorillas and stayed with them for a few hours and
Yeah.
filmed them, and it was amazing. Like, what incredible animals! And that was one of the highlights, I think, of my life.
Yeah.
And the people in Uganda were just so passionate about protecting the gorillas and
Yeah.
protecting their amazing nature. I mean, the thing about Uganda is southern Uganda is up at like 3,000 meters,
Yeah.
which is crazy, but it's a rainforest. Like, it's not like being down in Papua New Guinea, where we were in a rainforest and we were at like sea level or 500 meters above sea level, and it was hot and it was sticky and it was wet and there was bugs everywhere and it was like really rough. But in Uganda, you're up in this high altitude rainforest and it's cold at night and it's brisk and nice during the day, but the sun is out, and it's just it was beautiful there. I really, really would like to go back someday.
Yeah, it's a country that again people wouldn't necessarily think of going to, but one that I recommend massively for anyone that gets the chance to go to. Just from Murchison Falls National Park in the north to some of the sort of villages in the middle, right down to Kampala, which is for an African city a
Crazy.
pretty safe one, a crazy one, but a friendly one at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
And then the likes of Ginger and the River Nile and everything. I didn't get the chance to do the gorillas, but
Oh,
I would love to go back and do it someday. It just seems like a once in a lifetime experience, kind of.
yeah. I mean, I love kind of breaking down stereotypes with the shows and trying to go places that people might not think are safe, or places
Yeah,
that people would want to go.
yeah,
I had a wonderful time in Oman, and it's amazing how
yep,
uneducated people are about parts of the Middle East.
yeah,
And Oman, I had this amazing guide, Abdul Rahman, and he took me all through the Al Hajar Mountains in the north of Oman, and
yeah,
we even visited like his own village where he was born, and his family was there. We met his brother, and we had this beautiful like 100-kilometer trek through these northern mountains of Oman, and he was so nice and lovely, and people were just like, "Oh, I can't believe you went to film in Oman. It's so dangerous." I'm like, Oman isn't Afghanistan.
no,
Oman isn't. Oman is a pretty wealthy country where people have very high standard of living,
yeah,
and if you find the right part of the country and you find the right guide, they love the outdoors just as much as anyone else. So go, like, stop, talking yourself out of seeing
yeah.
amazing things. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Middle East, obviously there are parts of the Middle East that we wouldn't recommend going to at the moment, but a lot of the Middle East is incredibly safe and very, very friendly to go to. I mean, once you
Yeah,
take things below government level again,
yeah,
it is fantastic. I know I had the same experience in Oman as well, of just
mm,
meeting friendly people. I was only there, unfortunately, for 2 days or something in Musandam above Dubai, but just meeting cool people and getting all into the mountains, and accessible snorkeling and scuba diving and rock climbing, fishing, and anything that people who love the outdoors generally tend to gravitate towards, you can do in parts of the Middle East, and sort of come up against zero problems in doing so. So, it's another part of the world that just has a stigma, unfortunately.
Sadly, they've had their issues. There's been things in the news. There's been people who have acted, incorrectly or whatever. But again, once you kind of bring it down from the government level, people are amazing. Like
Yeah.
I've even been traveling in Saudi Arabia quite a bit, and I had a few shoots in Saudi Arabia that were scheduled for this year that have been postponed. And again, once you bring it down beyond the government level, I went to Riyadh, which is the capital. I rented a car and I drove all around Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And I went by myself for 14 days, and I just met cool people. And there were military roadblocks and people at gas stations, and everyone was like so excited to see a tourist.
Yeah.
Because they've just been so closed off for so long.
Yeah.
But they have so much to offer, and the people were just so genuinely excited, and they want tourism. And again, like the people who run the small, bed and breakfast place in the mountains near Al Ula have nothing to do with the Saudi royal family or anything that the Saudi royal family does internationally or domestically. They're just running their little Airbnb, and they just want people like me to come and bring my tourist dollars, and they want me to see their family. And like at the end of the day, like people are genuinely pretty nice. But once you get kind of caught up in painting an entire country with the color of that government, then you're missing out, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is a fantastic note to end the show on, to be honest.
Okay.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Ryan Pyle, for anyone that's listening. Follow on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Look out for the documentaries coming up. And it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care and stay safe.
Cool. This has been Wild Journeys Podcast. Thanks for listening.